So, did I read some warm and cozy, merry and bright books over the holidays? Absolutely not. I read a couple of books that were kind of dark and mysterious, but I'm here to talk about them today. And the first one is The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. This book is all over BookTube, so I had to see what it's about. And I will start by saying it is beautifully written. I really enjoyed this author's writing style and I enjoyed the setting. So, we are set in the aftermath of the Mexican War for Independence, and our main character, Beatrice, is really trying to establish herself in society, which is a little difficult for her because her father was executed as a traitor and her home has been burned to the ground. So she's really looking for security for her mother and for herself. And so that's why she accepts the proposal of Don Rodolfo and finds herself at this hacienda. Now, at the hacienda, this house has some skeletons in the closet, literally and figuratively, so it's a bit of a murder mystery and a haunted house story. I wouldn't really call this horror. I would say it's more of a murder mystery with a paranormal angle to it, but I wasn't very scared. I was in suspense a few times, but I felt like this book was fairly predictable. And I'm not someone who is really able to predict endings. I mean, if you have ever done a buddy read with me, then you know I'm usually not good at figuring out what's what. But in this book, it was very easy to see what was coming. But again, I did enjoy it, and the writing was very good, so I think that makes a difference. I've really enjoyed the incorporation of the Roman Catholic priest into the mix. I thought that was very cool considering that character wasn't just a priest, he was also a witch. So we see the incorporation of more kind of traditional spiritual beliefs as well, and kind of the fine line that a lot of people walked, because at the time there was a bit of an inquisition still happening, so you had to be careful about that. So I really enjoyed that part, and there was one character that I was hoping to get a little bit more from, and that was Juana, Rodolfo's sister. Now, she is one that really didn't adhere to any of the rules or expectations related to women at the time, and she seemed to get away with it. So I was very curious about her and her personality and her backstory, but we don't really get as much of that as I would have hoped. So again, I enjoyed the book. It definitely wasn't the best book I've ever read. It was fairly predictable, but it was beautifully written. So if you're looking for something that is very similar to Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca as far as the vibes go, I would go for this. That comparison is pretty much spot on. The next one is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This is a semi-autobiographical novel published just before Sylvia Plath's suicide. So knowing that, it makes the book a little bit more eerie, but I will say it's a very believable account of mental health struggles and someone's descent into, the abyss. Ironically enough, I'm not someone who struggles with mental health, so don't worry about me or anything, but I found the main character in this book, Esther, very relatable. She is a young lady in the 1950s who is struggling to find herself and really cope with a lot of the pressures that she feels. And I'm someone who really loves certainty, and I like to know what's coming next. And of course, life is very uncertain, and at some point you have to kind of just roll with it, and you have to kind of be proactive. And unfortunately, this main character, Esther, she really is paralyzed by a lot of that uncertainty. One of the images she uses is a fig tree, and every fig is a different life and a different opportunity, and she literally watches the figs just rot because she is paralyzed. She can't figure out what she wants to do, and I think that happens to a lot of people with anxiety or with mental health struggles. You just get paralyzed, and you're in fear of making the wrong choice. And I think for Esther, obviously, there were some other things going on, but I think the time period played into that as well because, according to some of the conversations she had with one of her boyfriends, she didn't want children. And that is the expectation in that time for women. You get married and you have children. So I can't imagine what that would be like, because obviously now we're a lot more open-minded about people's personal freedom and personal choices regarding families and whether you want one or not. So, and it was very hard to read. It was hard to know that this woman who had such talent and such insight could end her life in such a horrific way. So people who have those struggles can't really articulate what that is like, and it's very difficult for people who don't have those struggles to have any sort of insight into what that feels like. So this book, I think, really could open up a little bit more understanding and insight. If you guys have a favorite poem by Plath, drop me a comment. Let me know what it is so that I can look it up and read it. But I hope you guys are having a great afternoon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.